Welcome to the Men After God podcast, where you will be challenged and encouraged as you pursue God, achieve success, and raise a thriving family. Join your host, Dustin, and his guests on a weekly journey to grow as husbands, fathers, and men after God. Here is your host, Dustin Alley.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Men After God podcast. We're excited to have another awesome week here with you. I've got a great leader, coach, someone who's been a mentor to someone that we've had a recording with recently, and I can't wait to have this conversation with him as he's going to teach us how to get mo money, and I'll let him bring that up whenever we get into this. This is my friend Shane Padgett. He's also the co-host of the Male Cartel Podcast with his friend Nick Carnes. We're going to make sure we got their information in our show notes, so if you want to go listen to them, they've got some great guests already on there, just launched earlier this year. And so we're excited about what God's doing there as they invest into men like we do. But I want you to hear from Shane today, his story and longevity and his career path and the ministry that he's in and the people he's been able to pour into. It's just going to be great for you to learn from him today. So without further ado, Shane, thanks so much for being on here with us, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Dustin. Excited.
Sorry, I had to
get you a drink.
I was going to say, sorry, I had to get the drink of my bang there, man. We're recording in the afternoon, guys. I don't know about you. I'm definitely one of those like 2 o'clock feeling guys. And my go-to energy drink that I need to get sponsored by is Bang Energy. I like Sour Heads and Peach Mango. Those
Peach
two you
mango.
can send to me and I'll drink them in excess.
But I just had a peach mango last night, but I really like the vanilla cherry one. The cherry vanilla.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge cherry fan, like cherry Dr. Pepper or cherry Coke. Cherry Coke definitely turned me off to the whole cherry flavoring, but Pina Colada wasn't so bad. I tried that one. But you just said you had one last night.
Yes.
Like, what's last night to you?
I guess it's more like 7 p.m. We had youth last night, and so I was speaking, so I needed to pick me up and keep doing just in the nick of time. So. Oh,
man, if I had a bang at 7 at night, I wouldn't go to sleep until like 3 in the morning.
Really? You drink coffee throughout the day?
I do. Yeah, usually. Usually I do like a cup of coffee in the morning and then a bang at night in the afternoon, or a iced macchiato. Winter's coming though, and up here we've got winter that's just awful. So I usually do a hot coffee in the afternoon too.
Okay.
But if I drink coffee, a bang, anything past like 7 o'clock is kind of my cutoff. I can do like half a cup, but if I drink a full cup or a bang, no, man, I'm gone all night.
Man, I can drink a bang full of energy, and once it's time for me to take a nap, go to sleep, I'm done, cashed out.
What an amazing talent and ability. That is great.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Right, I'm sure. Yeah, you're going to teach us your ways, man. That's great. Well, hey, listen, tell us about your family. You know, Men After God, we're all about thriving faith and family. Tell us how your family's doing. What kind of family you got there?
Yeah, married to my awesome wife, Diana, 18 plus years. And we have 3 children. We have Daisy, who's a 7th grader, Andrew, who's a 4th grader, and then we have Sawyer, who is in 2nd grade. And so just living life, being dad, and actually my daughter, she's in a rehearsal tonight. She does ballet, so the big performance it goes down tomorrow. And
that's
so,
awesome.
Yep, ballet dad. Never thought I would be a ballet dad.
No, but okay. Have you seen what is it with The Rock in it, where he's the dad and the kid shows up? He's the football player.
Yes.
The game plan. Have you seen that?
I have.
Okay. All right. Be honest, man. Be honest. Have you put on the leotard to help her out with her stuff and like done the moves or?
No, I do play in the house. Okay. Not yet, but if they ask me to be in the Nutcracker, to be Santa Claus, or I guess it's not Santa Claus. I think it's like Saint Nick or somebody. Yeah. That character, the big guy. I'm 6'4", 250 pounds. I'll jump in and help him. And so,
I want to know the name of your daughter's ballet place so I can text them and just be like, hey, he said he would do it. Please ask him so we can get video of this, right?
Yeah, if I do it, I would be extremely nervous because Nick and everybody else I know would roast me to the nth degree.
Well, I've seen him and Ryan going back and forth on Facebook right now, like gym accountability.
That's right. They're trying to get after it. That's right.
I don't want involved in that. Like I go to the gym, but I don't need that type of accountability. Come on.
That's right.
So 3 kids, I think is what I heard there. And now, if I got their ages right, and your age in the mid 40s, you had them a little later in life. Is that right?
I did.
Yeah,
well, I actually had. I was in my 30s when we started trying to have kids, and my wife is 7 years younger than me, and so she's 39 and I'm 46, and so she wanted to wait to have children, and I was like, I wanted to have kids as soon as I could, but she
Mm-hmm.
was like, let's wait. And so we waited, and then we tried for probably about a good 2 years before we actually had Daisy, and
Okay.
then just couldn't conceive, and then we conceived, and then we conceived again afterwards, and then had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
then lost that baby, and then they had the other two. So yeah, and it's funny because growing up, I was the oldest of basically the grandkids. My brother's older than me by 2 years, but the rest of the grandkids I took care of. And so my family had a big family. My grandmother had 5 kids, and so they all had a bunch of kids, and so ended up taking care of babies all the time. I was like the built-in babysitter, that type of thing.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so
Yeah.
I've always loved children. So,
See, I come from the complete opposite end of that world. So I am an only child and the youngest of 2 grandkids. And so
wow.
me and children have never been the greatest of friends. I love them. I think they're amazing. Just please don't ask me to watch them for an extended period of time. Uh, and so that's awesome, man. So let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of the guys we interact with had their kids, in their 20s and things like that. You had them a little older in life. Like,
Yeah.
what are some great things you've seen as a father that you think that you could think back now and think like, man, it was really good I had them when I was older because of this?
Yeah, I would say my patience level is obviously better than it was if I had kids when I was like 22, 23.
Okay.
And I think wisdom and financial stability plays a part too. I think a better steward of finances, a better steward of my time. When I was young, especially like I was in ministry, so when I was young, I mean, I'd be exhausted. I would exhaust my entire like family, my wife, kids by doing, under the umbrella of doing like ministry, and I would
Yeah.
exhaust everything, and it wouldn't be a good steward. And so, I tell when I do premarital, I always encourage the couple not to have kids off the bat. Just
Hmm.
wait a few years, get a chance to know each other really, really well, get a good rhythm. But the Lord provides a child, and that's fine. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
a
Amen.
gift. The
Amen.
Lord knows, and He's sovereign. So, and that's fine. But, financially, you're never going to be financially stable. I don't know. But, but I think that you having wisdom, and as a man, we're responsible to lead our families, and so to lead our wives, and, those types of things. And so when I was younger, I mean, when I first got married, I was really I was just, going at it 100 miles an hour, all gas, no brakes in ministry, and just trying to make an impact in the kingdom. I don't think that would have been as good as a dad as I am
Oh
now.
man.
But
Yeah.
I don't
No,
think I'm the best dad in the world either. So, but
right.
I give it
Yeah.
everything I got. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying there, because it resonates with me so much, man. Because I am that guy so I was 19, she was 18 when we got married. And
Mm,
then we were blessed. We did wait to have kids about 5 years.
yeah.
It was about 5.5, 6 years. And we had my oldest son, Evan. I was 23 years old. Right.
Mm,
And at the time we weren't following the Lord. The
wow.
guys that listen and know my testimony. But I wasn't following God at the time. I was in the Marine Corps, and a whole number of things wrong in that whole scenario. But thankfully, God and His grace helped me come back to Him. And what you're saying about ministry, I talk to a lot of guys that are in ministry, obviously, just with the connections that I have. And then when I talk to guys in the business world, you'll hear them say the same thing: just replace ministry with my
Yeah.
business, my job, my whatever it is. And I always like to make that connection to our listeners, because a lot of our guys, they're not in ministry, and that's fine, that's great, because we want to talk to those guys. But don't think that just because a guy's a pastor that he is
Hmm.
immune to that same drive and ambition and everything else that comes along with being just a man in general. And so
Yeah.
I love that. One thing I take encouragement from is you said your patience level has improved, and so I'm waiting to get there. That's like, I'm still in the process. I turned 36 this year, but I'm still in the process of getting that up and going.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
you're a Marine, so was it slow is smooth and smooth is fast, and so I find myself now more. And I just had this conversation with a young person, and I said, you know what, this is what I do. I come home now, and if I've had a really taxing day, and so I'll go from so many different meetings and responsibilities, and I'll come home, and there's this little gravel driveway I guess it's a parking lot. And I pull in it. It's about 2 blocks from my house, and I sit and I just think about like my kids and my family, and try to decompress. A lot of times it's not like that, and I just pray, get my mind right, and I try to shut everything off. And then when I pull in that driveway, I know since my door opens, my Sawyer, who's 8, is going to be running to me, and I'll pick him up, and my Andrew's going to punch me, and my Daisy, she'll be out in the yard. They still come outside to see me, and I appreciate
Oh
that.
man.
And so and I'm dad, and I'm husband, and so I've got to turn it off and then turn it back on and give them my 100%. Be there while I'm there type of
Man, yeah.
mentality. So that's helped me a lot for sure.
That is huge, man. I heard that counsel before, pull into your garage, take a few minutes, just breathe, because the most important people in your life are not the ones you just left, they're the ones you're about to walk into, and trying to give them your all, not your leftovers, bro. That's so huge. I wish I was better at that, but I love what you're doing there. And so now you've been in ministry a long time. You said like 20 some years, 23, 24 now?
23 years, and I'm my 24th now. Yeah.
Okay. On the 24th now, what are some different capacities you've served in during that time?
So student pastor, student community, where we work with local, domestic, and international missions, local impact, family ministry. Did that for a while. And when I first got started, they didn't call it family ministry. It was called youth and children. And then I'm a part of the teaching team as well with our campus that we're at now with our church that I've been on staff for 11 years now. So, and I serve as pastor and families and next gen. So from babies through college, I just kind of help give insight and direction. And I'm the underrower is what I tell people. I'm under running and trying to keep the team afloat and be a big support to them. And then very active with our teenagers and so but in teaching as well. So
yeah. Man, so you've really stayed in that youth and family space, because I know I spent 3.5 years in youth ministry. Prior to that, we were working with the children's department as a layperson, but on staff, I ended up becoming a youth pastor. And what I found is, when I thought of it, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to be with the teenagers. That's what I do. You really find yourself, and I say this, understanding everybody does things differently, but as a youth pastor, you really connect with the families, and you become part of that world, because I know I got the calls of like, hey, can you help me here, because he's being or she's done and we need to talk about. And you end up getting into more than just dealing with what you might think is teenage drama, but you actually start dealing with the family nucleus and how they're interacting. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, 100%. And I never thought that I would do student ministry. It was never the game plan. Never thought I would do it this long, for sure. Matter of fact, just 11 years ago, before I went on staff at this church, I thought I was done with student ministry. I really wanted to get a secular job, or just travel and speak and get a secular job, or just transition to be a campus pastor. I had some opportunities at different churches, and came on staff at this church as student evangelism pastor. So my job was to work with middle school, high school, college, and how do we create a discipleship model, but evangelism into the community and to the local schools, and how we can teach our people how to evangelize or have gospel conversations and be something like in the local schools. And then after 2 months, the middle school pastor, he resigned. The high school pastor went to middle school, and then they're like, "Hey, we need you to do high school." And I was like, "Oh, I got to work with parents again."
Yeah, it's the teens aren't the problem.
Yeah, it really is. You can stem everything back to parents, I promise you. So,
Amen.
And that's just my 2 cents in that. But never thought. And I thought I had an itch now, like I struggle because if I'm being completely honest and transparent, I really look at my life like a battery, like on your phone, and if I live to be 80. My granddad passed away when he was 80 years old. I'm 46. So, if you do the math, I don't have another 40 years.
Right.
And so I've got about 40% or so of battery life left. And if I was going on a trip and my battery only had 40%, I'd want to plug it in a little bit longer to get it charged up. And I'd get a little antsy, And so, but I'm going to finish out my last part of my life like really, really strong. So now I have an itch, to plant a church um, just more responsibility, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just want to finish strong.
that's good.
I really don't care. I just want to finish
Yeah,
strong.
or whatever it's
And
going to
so,
be. Yeah,
yeah, whatever
that's
it's going to
good,
be.
man.
But now I go, oh man, I find a lot of joy in pouring into our residents that we have. At a church, we have a residency program. And so I love pouring into them. I love coaching them up. And yeah, I love what I do in the schools. But at the same time, you go, man, sometimes you want to make some decisions. But
Right.
so, yeah,
Well, I think
it's
it's
weird.
good. It sounds like you're waiting on God for those decisions.
Yeah,
Like I hear you say,
100%.
like I got an itch, but I'm not scratching yet because He ain't said to scratch.
100%.
That's good, man. That's awesome. Hey, let's talk back about that family and the development of it, because you said you were running 100 miles an hour with ministry and things like that when you were younger. What are some things that were there any difficulties? Did you still kind of have that 100-mile-per-hour mentality as your family began to develop and you began to have children? Did you see any impact of what you were doing in your career on your family while it was again growing?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it was tough because I just want to make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And really that stems back from how I grew up. Right? I grew up in a broken home, but as broken and as poor as you can get in the United States. I grew up in an abusive home. My dad was physically abusive. My brother has special needs because my dad would beat my brother in the head. My dad would beat us. My dad would tie us to trees, beat me with water hoses, axe handles. My dad was a very
Oh
mean,
my
angry
goodness.
man. And my mom always struggled with alcohol. And so we grew up, didn't have anything. We lived in this old bootleg trailer with holes in the floor. Um, I remember we didn't even have real milk. I mean, we would have powdered milk, but when we got real milk and we had power in our house, you had to put that milk. You couldn't drink it out the cereal. You put it in the refrigerator because it's going to last you a whole week. And
Wow.
we'd go down to a pond and get water. And so I grew up, didn't have much of anything, an abusive home. I grew up a very sick kid. I have a blood disorder. It's like sickle cell anemia, but my red blood cells are not sickle shaped, they're sphere shaped. So I grew up having a spleen removed when I was 6. I have 2 clotting disorders as well. And so I got real sick as a young boy. And so stayed in and out the hospital and surgery at 6. And then my dad started abusing me. And so my parents, a lot of things happened. 8 years old, my parents got a divorce. My mom was going to lose me. My mom chose a divorce. We bounced around from trailer to trailer about every few months. And then I had awesome grandparents. My grandma, my mom's mom, was like a white Medea. I don't know if you've ever seen Medea movies, but she was a big lady. She didn't play. So
Oh, that's awesome.
she was a sweet lady, very firm. And then my dad was still alive. And so then by the time my dad got remarried when I was about 10, so did my mom. My mom met my stepdad, who she's still married to today. They met at the Honky Tonk, which is a bar where all women go to meet the man of their dreams.
Yeah, right
And
now.
so my mom met my stepdad. They married on Halloween too, so a lot of times. And so my dad got remarried. My dad, my dad wound up taking his life on Father's Day, committed suicide on Father's Day. I was going to 8th grade, and so through high school, I remember playing sports, and I'd get mad. I felt disrespected. I didn't have a lot of coaches that would just cuss you out, and we didn't have a lot of really, really big positive male role models, especially like spiritually. There was no God in the home at all.
Yeah.
And so I think because of how I grew up, and I didn't graduate high school until I was almost 21 years old. And so
wow. Okay.
trouble, everything you can imagine. But I think that's one of the reasons I got into student ministry. And I really didn't get into it. It just happened.
Fell
It was
in your
like,
lap, yeah.
and I just got into it, and I was like, and I believe in these kids, and and I think the passion on that to really want to reach people. Yeah. And
that was a driver for us. We were the church we were at. The person who was leading the student ministry ended up leaving the church, and we didn't have There was nobody. My pastor was doing it for a bit, and I went to him and I said, Pastor, like, I know I didn't come on staff to be, I wasn't hired to be a youth pastor. I was hired to be an assistant pastor. And it was very general, very vague, because he wanted to figure out, like, what would I be good at? What could I do? I was an air traffic controller in the Marine Corps. And so there wasn't an exact, like, spot for that. It was just kind of like, well, what's God gifted you with? What can you do? And so he brought me on. I did some work, and then I asked him, I said, hey, like, these teens, they need someone. Like, can we jump in there? And so he let us do it. And then a lot of that, like, I was blessed not to be in an abusive home. But my dad has done drugs and alcohol when I was growing up. Parents were divorced and things like that. So I went through some things, but not like what you're describing there. But that fueled that passion to like, I want to help them. And then of course I'd walked away from God, and you said you grew up without God. Like, I wanted them to know, like, hey, listen, I've been on both sides of this coin, and I can tell you which one's better. And so we were pouring into them that way. And I love student ministry. It's a lot of fun. You come up with like, so my name's Dustin, and in that ministry, most people were known as brother, like brother Dustin, brother this, brother that. So I got the nickname from like this 5th grade girl. Funny enough, she's like, she's came, she's like, hey, Brody. What? What'd she say? Brody. Okay, there it is. Now I'm Brody, not just Brody, just Brody, and that stuck forever. But that's nowhere near as interesting as your nickname that you were telling me that came up. And I'd love to hear our guys to hear that story, to understand about Shane Mo Money Records Padgett.
Yeah, so funny. My buddy Josh Glimp, he's a pastor in Jacksonville, Florida. And a long time ago, we would, he and I just came up with, we just had a conversation about getting students to remember events. Or just when you do announcements, it's like they have no idea what's happening. Right. You can hand them a document. You can cut down 10,000 trees and make paper for it, and then see it, and they'll still not even remember. And so we came up with a funny video that we would do hug time and then announcements, and it was rappers. And back in those days, there's a rapper called 50 Cent, and then one, Eminem was big. So he was Skittles, and I was Dollar Bill. And so we would say Dollar Bill. So fast forward many years later, we're trying to, I had all these music videos and funny videos that we had made. And then I was trying to make a channel, and I just used my Gmail account and synced it, and I had to come up with a name, and it was Mo Money. And so now to this day, everything I send, like, to eat online, Lifesaver, for instance, when I went up and picked Lifesaver for Sunday for 7th grade girls, and they're having a gathering. So I want to serve my team and provide food and all that. And I went up there and I said, hey, I'm here to pick up Mo Money. And then so there's Mo Money, Lifesaver chicken. I remember the big tag that says Mo Money. I was like, this is kind of embarrassing, kind of cool, kind of embarrassing at the same time.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter for sure. Mo Money, what? Yeah.
You have PDQ where you're at? That's like a chicken. That's like a chicken restaurant, and so they had fast food, and they get on the intercom and they announce your name. That your food was coming up. And if I did it online, they'd go, "Mo Money, your food's ready. Mo Money, your food's ready." And so everybody's looking around.
Oh, right. Who's this? Yeah. Imagine how they felt that moment, right? They're looking at it and go, this is a joke, right? Right. I don't have to say this. But I want one of them to own it, right? Yeah. Yo, we got Mo Money in the house. Just Mo Money. Come on up and grab your chicken.
That's right.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. So I bring that story up because it says something about you in a great way. And the way that you would connect with kids and pour your heart into what you were doing. As your family was growing and developing, how did you find, what are some things you found that allowed you to be able to pour your heart into your career path, your ministry, and your family with as much passion and with as much zeal, without, trying to sacrifice either one? And I'm sure if you're like me, there was times where one got more than the other, which for most of us, it's the ministry or the business that gets more than the family does. But what that looked like for you? What are some things that you learned and you were able to do to help balance and find a good rhythm?
Yeah. So I wanted at a young age to make sure my kids were always around. So like we do youth. I know some people want their own children to be away from young people. I want my kids in the middle of everything. And I want my students to grab, when my daughter was born, they're grabbing babies. They're just turning around. Always be around, and young people need to see that there's husband and wife that love each other, you know,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
their parenting, they need to see that because a lot of kids don't have that.
No.
And so
That's true.
then when my daughter got to a certain age, I ended up, matter of fact, I got sick real bad. I had a pulmonary embolism, which was actually the greatest gift that God's given me literally in the last decade.
Wow.
Because they didn't think I was going to make it. I'm hooked to every tube imaginable. I'm laying in bed. We're not supposed to make it. And the only thing I can remember in my mind was that somebody's going to have to walk my daughter down the aisle.
Mm.
I'm dying.
Oh,
And
man.
dude, I was on every machine. I'm crying, and they'd come back in and say, "Mr. Padgett, Mr. Padgett, you got to calm down. I want to sedate me." And I was just like, it was all just mixed up in my mind. And this is it, you know. And this is like literally like my eighth life. And so I said, you know, and I'm the guy who's always preaching, you know, Jesus is better, and chase Jesus. And here I am, just really struggling with like humanity and being. I'm a bigger guy, like very vulnerable,
Yeah.
and after about 6-7 hours through the night, I just remember having a peace over me that that everything's gonna be okay. And I just talked to the Lord, and I remember coming in and out of consciousness, and I said, God, whatever you want to do, I trust you. And then
Wow.
obviously I made it. But one thing happened from that as a result is that I will not compromise. And I do treat every day as if this is the last day I have. And so with that is that, you know, I just love my kids better. I love my wife harder. I love my family. I love students when I'm with them. And it's just kind of a thorn in my side, like Paul would say, like thorn in my side to make sure that I'm on the up and up. Like I can't escape having an illness. It keeps me honest.
Yeah.
But in that, I love my kids. So with my kids, my boys, like they come to football with me, and I'll have them give them a job to fill Gatorade cups up or to plan the food. And so whatever I do, they come with me. And my son, who's 8, you know, I go speak at this event or that event. I bring my daughter with me, I bring my son with me. And then my daughter, I was speaking at a youth event. About 6-7 different churches was together. My daughter came and shared the gospel. And so and I was like, if a sixth grader can do this, you 12th graders have no excuse,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And so,
Oh, yeah.
but just being very intentional, they come with me and get to experience what I do. And it just makes it kind of I don't know what you would call it, but it's just like we're Team Padgett, and we're in it together, and we do it all together.
That's
And
awesome.
but that's a little bit different than a lot of people that I know of. And so,
Yeah,
but it keeps me.
especially, for me as a younger guy coming into it, that was one thing my pastor had to counsel me on was stop trying to separate your life. I would try to separate between ministry and family time, and I had to learn that no, this is a holistic approach. And I still don't know if I've perfected it, but I'm definitely at the place where I want my kids around and I want them with us. And we were the same way with the kids around the teenagers.
Yeah.
The longer I was there, the better I got at it. And our kids, there's one of them who actually, his name is Levi. He runs Faithful Shirts Customs, and he's the one that does. Sorry for the unashamed pitch here, but he actually does our merch, and so
Let's go.
he's the one that's he sponsors our podcast and he does our merch for us. And so he's put this hat together. I got this shirt on, if you can see with our logo and stuff. And but he and my middle son just have a special connection, and it was because they were always around. And we took them to camps, man. And let me tell you, when those boys learned that having little kids in your arms attracted girls, everywhere they went, my kids were with them everywhere. And so, but it's turned out amazing because now I'm seeing my kids, right? Like you talked about how you grew up around a bunch of kids and stuff. My oldest son, who just turned 12, is great with kids. And then my middle son does well with kids that are younger than him. He turns 9 in January. And I think a lot of that, it's not me. Like, first off, it's their mother, and then the influence of those teenagers that were loving on them and befriending them and letting them know, like, yeah, I'm older than you and stuff, but I care for you. And so I'm starting to see that even pay off now, years later. And so I think that's so wise, just about having a holistic approach to life rather than that division that's so often created, whether you've got a 9-to-5, a business, a ministry. Do what you can to not separate it and really have them apart. I love that. That's good, man.
Yeah, 100%. I would 100% agree with that.
So tell me, Shane, you've got you've got the three kids and you had them later. If you were talking to a guy that was, hustling and grinding and just really trying to knock it out of the park, and not in ministry, but in business and life and stuff, and he's out there, and what are some things, like what are like top three things you would say to this guy, like to help him have a thriving faith and family from your own personal experience? Like what would you do to help him out?
Yeah, I would say number one, the best thing you can give your kid is their mom or dad chasing Jesus with everything they got. So
Yeah.
I'd say number one, your relationship with the Lord has to be number one. You have to be chasing it. And a lot of times what I see is that men, it gets on the back burner type of thing, and then they fill that void with just going to church type of thing. And so I think that's the best thing you ever give your kid. Best Christmas gift, best birthday gift, everything would be a parent who's very faithful to the Lord and just chasing Jesus. As we'd make it very simple. I say that too. I would say call out those times where you can know your kid's heart and your wife's heart too. So you need moments where, and it looks different for everybody, and so you really can't, it's not like a one fits all type of situation, but you got to just know your kid's heart and know your wife's heart. So you got to, be disciplined as a man, and because that is your responsibility as your family. So regardless, that you are responsible for your family. So because you are responsible, you have to create that moment to, it could be anything. So I'll give you an example. Like my boys are young, and my Andrew, he loves sitting down to do Legos. Now I didn't grow up with Legos. I'm not a big Lego guy, but for some reason we could sit and talk about everything playing Legos. Now my son is not like that. We're going to go fishing, and we talk about everything when we're together fishing. And he loves being outside. He loves it with a passion. And then my Daisy, she enjoys the quality time. Riding home from youth, she wants to go home with me, and all we do is talk about everything,
Yeah.
And I love those moments because I get to know their heart better, and then that helps me be able to lead them better as well, because I know that. And then they're always evolving. When kids are little, 80% of the job of a parent is done by the time they're 16, and so studies prove that. So by the time they're 16, you're just fine tuning as a parent, and so you're imprinting and laying these things down. And so the question would be like, what are you laying down? What are you imprinting in them?
Yeah.
And so carving out time shows that they're important. That they're very important in your life. And I would say, the third thing, and it's not in order, but I'd say they need to see you love their mama, and support their mama. And so that doesn't mean that you just let mama run over you. I'm gonna say, as a man, don't do that.
That's good. Yeah. Right.
But there's a way that you talk to her, the way you speak life into her, and the way you can handle a disagreement. I would think about like using your tone. I did a survey years ago at a school that I was leading a chapel for, as a local public school, and in that I did a little survey because I was speaking at a men's event, and so I had as kids. There's 5. Well, I've got a collection. It's like there's half of them were girls, half of them were young men, and then I had 50 and 50 from single parent homes, and then 2-parent homes. And so I said, and the question was, if you could say anything to your dad without getting in trouble, ask a question to your dad without getting in trouble, what question would you ask him? And the number one question that came up was this. This is from Augusta, Georgia. It was, Dad, why are you so angry? Man, if that doesn't even put me in check today, because you think about why did they think about Dad, why are you so angry? And then and I was like, oh man, wow, that's pretty huge. And so sometimes, men can fall in that habit where we bring things home and we don't speak life into our wife. Or sometimes, the mantra, happy wife, happy life.
Happy life. Yeah.
I don't really believe in that. And I just think you just pursue your wife, your bride, and the kids need to see that and see you're together and you lead her, and your job is to love her as Christ loved the church. And talking all this stuff out is easier said than done. And
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's dive in for like 3 to 5 minutes here as we close up, the number one thing comes back, like, Dad, why are you so angry? Like, in your experience and in working with guys, like, what do you, and I think you alluded to it, but I just want to make it clear for anyone listening that might be struggling with some of this. What do you think is leading to men, or the perception of the father in the home being so angry?
Oh man. Can you rephrase that? I'm trying to give you the exact what
sure. So
I think.
what I'm looking for is, I want our guys that are listening to understand what's causing them to either be angry or portray anger in the home, so that the kids are, asking that question, right, without fear, right? So what is it that's leading them to either be angry or portray that anger?
Yeah, it could be several things. From what I see, just working with men in general, one is unresolved issues from their childhood or things that they've dealt with, mental health. There's some things some trauma, something they haven't dealt with, and they just, instead of dealing with it, like most men don't want to go to doctors, I'm just
Right.
I'm just going to like not care about this. And then it flushes its way out to where it could be an insecurity. It could be where you feel like, somebody's pushing back on your authority or and that type of thing. I think that's one. I think sometimes we have a lot of options that are available. And I think that sometimes we can have, it's, a lot of things kind of thrown at us through technology, work, all these things that are jumbled up. And then when somebody we come home comes at us, maybe we can view our home too as like a safe place. When they come at us, then we have all these things here and it makes us flustered, and then we just lash out without even thinking or even realizing what we're doing, just because we're kind of overstimulated, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Yeah, and I also see too, like just the other day I had a conversation with someone about this. You're out of shape, you're not eating well, physically, you're not in a good spot. And not mentally, but just physically on a good spot, which actually plays in your mental as well. But
I was about to bring that out. Yeah.
Yeah. So physically, you're not in a good spot, and so you're just, your fuse has gotten this short, And I think also guys too, go if you're over here like that, go get your hormones checked. Get testosterone, just see what's happening. Sometimes we can, something small like that, you can go fix it. But a lot of variables, a lot of unresolved issues, things I see.
Everything you're saying though, what it comes down to, whether it's your physical fitness, your diet, your testosterone, hormones, unresolved issues, like all of it comes down to one thing, I think, and that is you need help.
Yeah.
We all do. And, when we look at the Bible, we see that it's like God knows a lot of stuff. And so he just kind of set things up so it'd be good for us. Discipleship is not just a program your church operates. Like it's supposed to be a relationship you have with other believers. And why? Because we need other people to speak into our lives in these different areas. And, whether it's going to the doctor, going to a therapist, a psychiatrist, a coach, a mentor, whatever you want to call it, just going to someone and getting some help. But you have to come to that place to realize that you need it. And oftentimes I think we don't need it because we think we can handle it. But guys, let me just, like, from experience, like, because I'm the guy that deals with anger. It's kind of why I'm sticking on this, Shane, because I that's an issue I've had for a long time. I've gotten a lot better, but I definitely need help with it. And I've spoken, just to be transparent, I've spoken with a therapist, a psychiatrist, a coach. Like, I've been through it and I'm still working at it. But go find that help, because you might not think you need it, but your kids know you need it. And what you end up doing is you're creating a bad cycle, because now they're going to get into it when they're older. Now your grandkids are going to get the repercussions of your inability to go just talk to somebody. And so huge thing there. One of the things I'll say from my own experience, Shane, and maybe you can speak to this for just a minute as we wrap up. If you are a guy that deals with some of that, don't ever think you're too big to apologize to your kids. Like, if you lose it, they need to hear that so that they know how important they are to you. And I've had to over the lifespan of my children, especially my 12-year-old son, because we had him when I was 23 years old. And good Lord, I see the wisdom in waiting, but just saying I'm sorry. and getting down on his level. And hey, listen, I'm not perfect. And one thing I've reiterated, Shane, and you can speak to any wisdom or ignorance in this, is to remind them, like, hey, listen, our Heavenly Father is so much better than I am. Don't let your view of him be diminished by my failure and my sin. Because I know that statistically, and studies show that people get their idea of who God is by who their father is. And I don't want them to ever think God is this angry God just sitting up there waiting to go off or anything of that nature. And so that's been my experience with it. Shane, what are some things you could say to that?
Oh, I would 100% agree. 1000% agree with that. And I would say one thing you're doing too is modeling, asking for forgiveness for them. And I think that is amazing because, you're demonstrating the way you love your wife. You're going to demonstrate the gospel, like your kids and your kids' kids and their kids will see the gospel by the way you have your marriage. They also see the gospel the way that you come to them with forgiveness when you own your junk and say, hey, and then your kids are so, you're asking for grace, you're asking forgiveness, you're asking for mercy. And then what happens is in return, your kids look at you and they go they love you, your dad. And then they have so much more respect for you. It's amazing the way that God has, as you mentioned, the way that God has worked it all out. Because they do come back and they respect you more and they love you more. And then what you're doing, you're pointing everything back to Jesus, and it's beautiful. But if you don't do that, what happens is when they're 16 years old and they haven't really seen this pattern, they're going to thumb their nose up at you more than likely and push back, and it's going to be so much friction. And then you don't know what that situation would in turn, create. And they may, like you said, the cycle keeps going back in. But man, I love it, man. That's just a matter of forgiveness. And that's what we do as Christians. I'll do wrong with you, Dustin. I'm going to come to you as a man and go, hey, I'm wrong. I was a total jerk. I shouldn't have done this. Right. I am so sorry. And you can say, yes, you was a punk. And because I did it.
Yeah, right.
I'm in my junk. But sometimes I don't know why we're so prideful when it comes to our children, though, it's so weird. We think we got to have it all together. And I don't know anybody has it together. And so you're like, man, you're not for anybody. Yeah.
And they more than anyone will know, you need help. You ain't got it all together. And I've said this from the pulpit, man. And this is for anybody who's got a public persona. If you have a brand, if you are a creator, if you're in ministry, and I teach biblical truths and principles, and I have to own it. Hey guys, I'm 35, 36 years old. I'm teaching this. I do what I can here, but there's a couple times I got to confess some of this is I didn't do that right. And I've told our church, I said, my greatest fear is for my kids to see who I am on Sunday morning, know my failures Monday through Saturday, and think for some reason I'm trying to be two different people. Because it's not the case. It's just, I've got to preach the word. I got to preach the truth of the word and live. And like you said, it's easier to say it than it is to live it.
That's right. And just living, that's just being authentic. That's being, as what they were saying, counseling your honest self. That's just being true to who you are. And I think that, that's greatly respect. That's why I like you, Dustin, because you're just real. You're real.
Yeah,
and I think that's what.
That. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what you want in this world. I want to be around people who are real, authentic, and then. And so people see that, and I think that's why your podcast is growing, and people just are attracted to you. And our short time together, I go, oh, Dustin's my friend now because we're kindred spirits. We're striving to be the same guy.
When I saw Shane Mo Money on my schedule today, I'm like, I'm gonna like this guy. And I was honestly hoping you were going to be able to rap for me, but since that's not going to happen, well, maybe for next time. But Shane, right there with you, man. It's one of the Men After God exists so we can help men achieve success with a thriving faith and family. We can't do that if we're not real. Some of our episodes, man, and I know you guys have been recording for a bit now, but I don't know about you. Some of our episodes, I've because I talk with my hands sometimes. So I've hit a light, or I've knocked the microphone, or I've had a guest that was sitting next to me and knocked something over. I'm like, no, leave it. This is real. This is just what happens, guys. Like, we're not perfect. And do I want a better studio? Absolutely. And one day will we have one? Absolutely. But in all of it, you're going to see the journey, because part of being a dad, part of being a businessman, part of being a ministry, part of being a husband is the fact that you are not going to get it right the first time. And you're going to have to fail, and you're going to make mistakes, and it ain't going to be pretty. But you just keep going. And you said it. Just, I love how you phrased it. You chase Jesus. You pursue after God. You make him the priority. And it's almost like he knew what he was saying when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." Man, when we just put the kingdom, we put Jesus first, it's amazing how everything else just lines up.
1,000%. It's that simple. You chase, think about it. If you chase money, and you work and you did everything you can to make money, guess what's going to happen? You're going to make money. If you chase foolishness, you can become a fool. You chase Jesus, everything just works its way out. You become more like Christ, as Acts 4:13, where it says they saw the courage of Peter and John, saw that unschooled ordinary men, but took note they've been with Jesus, and I think that's one of the guys I respect the most. He fixes bumpers. His name is Justin, and he is a great guy. He's in his 50s, and I respect him, but he's always been honest and real, and he loves Jesus, and he's successful. And I look at him so much, and he's blue collar, and he fixes bumpers. And I think he's like, way ahead of I am. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to get better. That's where I have to get. I'm going to start fixing some bumpers. And
absolutely,
and so because he chases Jesus. It's just,
and that's what it all comes down to, man. Shane, I've loved our conversation, man. We're here at about 45 minutes, and I try to keep that about the max for our podcast. And so thank you so much for your conversation. I look forward to having you on again, man, because I've enjoyed our convo. I'd love to get you to speak on some content you do for your leadership development and things like that. And so we're going to have you on again. And I think I got an interview with Nick. I actually think it just got scheduled like October 13th or something like that. But it'll be good. And this recording, by the time you guys that are listening hear this, October 13th will have passed. But yeah, man, no, thanks so much. And guys that are listening, there was so much value in today, not just in how to have your name pronounced as Mo Money at restaurants, because that's hilarious, but so much in what he was able to bring from his perspective of having kids at a later age. And maybe you're in that boat. Maybe you're like me and had them young, and you're coming to some realizations like, man, I got some errors. I got some mistakes and things. Like, learn from his life, learn from my mistakes and the value that was shared there, especially near the end of our conversation. And pursue Jesus. Be a man after God. The 5 parts of our framework is to deepen our relationship with Jesus, devote time to our family, develop ourselves, deliver value to others, and do nothing for Jesus. Don't forget to rest. A lot of that time, that stress and anxiety gets built up in you because you're not resting, and it's coming out in your home. It's coming out with your wife and your children. So make that a priority. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Facebook. Head over to facebook.com/groups/Men After God. We'd love to have you in there as we deliver value content, at least on a weekly basis. And then our coaching program's launching. We've got so much coming up in 2024. Brand new book coming out. Just so much is happening right now in the Men After God world. And then Shane, tell the guys how they can either get in contact with you or follow along with the Male Cartel Podcast.
Yeah, Shane Padgett on Instagram, ShanePadgett. Same thing on Facebook, social media, Twitter as well. Shane Padgett. Nothing else after that. Male Cartel is, I guess you can just go to search bar, put a Male Cartel. It's on Spotify, Apple, as well as YouTube.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we're going to make sure we get those links in our show notes. And then, Shane, I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to give you a link. I'm going to shoot you an invite. I'll get you and Nick both in there to our Facebook community. You're welcome to always drop value in there. And guys, if you ever want to reach out to Shane, I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about just any part of his journey or anything he could help you with. All right. Shane, thanks again for being on here, man. We had a great time. I'm looking forward to seeing what God does with you all over at the Male Cartel. And we're just here to support you. And I tell people, when it comes to other podcasts, we don't compete. We collaborate. We lift up, and we want to make sure you guys are doing great things. So if we can be a help, let us know. Guys that are listening, I hope you had a great time today. Be sure to check us out online, and I'll talk to you next week.
See you, bro.
Thank you for listening to the Men After God podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and keep up with the show by following us at facebook.com/Men After God. You can also reach out to Dustin personally at dustin@seekconsulting.us with any questions or for coaching on being a man after God. Until next time.